How's it going, everybody? It's our fourth show of the day. We've got Greg Sullivan coming on from Japan. I'm going to put on a little clip here from the Soulogy Soul Gathering in Sedona a couple of weekends ago. This is Arturius Miracula, my friend Jade, and my friend Neil. We're just going to listen to this for 2-3 minutes while everybody gets to come in, and we can share it out a little bit.
Prosperity song. I am filled with inspiration, gold thought, vision, and reflection. See my money's resurrection. Blessings here and all about. Courage, faith, and wisdom sprout. Gold for me is everywhere. And with all I
transmission there from our friend Asturias Miraculi. That was a soul gathering in Sedona a couple of weekends ago. I'm going to bring up Greg Sullivan. He's here. He's our friend from Japan. We met at the Portland airport a few weeks ago. We were just came into Portland and about 8 o'clock at night. We checked in and he sent me a message and said, I'm in Portland. I'm at the airport. You want to meet tomorrow? And we had a great meeting. We did a show earlier, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. And so we're going to pick up where we left off. He's got an interesting story. We'll get into it. Let's pull up Greg now. Let's see here. Here we go. Let me get him unmuted. Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to unmute you. Let me. I think we're both doing it. Hang on.
Yeah. Hey. Hey, Todd. Okay. Good to see you. Yeah. Good morning. I can hear you great. Good morning. Good evening to you.
That's good.
Yeah. Zoom has made some changes. We just had
still daylight out here.
Yeah. Where are you now? Are you back on the road?
I'm in. No, I'm in Northern California in a secluded cabin in a remote area. I'm 42 acres adjacent to 200 plus acres of government land, and there's bears and deer and coyotes.
Amazing.
There's a river running on the back of the property. Yeah, so it's all cool. Yeah, we're in the middle of a valley surrounded by mountains. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. We're looking at the stars last night. It was pretty clear for a while. Correct. We saw one object that looked kind of strange. It looked to be a little too low for a satellite and a little too high for a plane. I don't know what it was, but it had the same trajectory as a plane. They didn't have any. So I don't know. We're here to learn more about the what you're doing with JCETI, and your experiences with our family. Maybe pick up where we left off. So, I don't know. This is a subject that is gaining more and more credibility, I think. We all know that there's a lot of psyops out there, and we all got to discern for ourselves and such. But there's a lot of people that are filming, taking pictures, having experiences with Star Family. I don't know where you want to start with this. You talked last time about your experience, how you started doing what you were doing 10 plus years ago at the Aceti Ranch. You talked quite a bit about that. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing in Japan and, and maybe some personal experiences along the way, however you want to start it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And blessings. It's always a perfect timing that we gather like this. And our last talk was so resonant and so smooth and enjoyable for me. Thank you. Yeah, I've come back to Japan. I was, like you said, we met in Portland, and then we did our first call when I was up in Vancouver there, and then now I'm back here in Tokyo just in time for a couple. It seems like we're in this now big downhill slope towards the end of the year, and a lot of our long-term projects are finally coming home to roost. We had a lot of kind of planes in the air circling and circling and circling, and we didn't have clearance from the tower, but I got back, and immediately something that I had really asked our guides to manifest, they kind of pulled the magic, and they did it for us, and it caused what I would call like a time crunch. So we're getting into the manifestation, and it kind of reminds you of all the times that perfect timing and synchronous timing, and so we were kind of cleared out of this really big project of late. Last week, you might have seen in the news, Tokyo was hit by this large typhoon. So we're also seeing the tug of war between the conspiracy folks who want to always spin these events as something negative and some sort of attack, versus those of us who are on this sort of on the ascension wave, who know that Gaia herself is involved, and just because it looks like a storm doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So we're all riding the waves here, and today I'd love to share some of our work in Japan, some photos, and if I could share a screen, I've got basically to remind people, JCETI is a project that does the we're outside. We're outside doing Skywatch and ET contact events, and we've been luckily blessed enough to have a large community here nationwide, and so at the one of the main trigger events was, of course, the Fukushima incident. 3/11 they call it. So that mobilized a whole ton of light workers and ascension workers here inside of Japan. And so we've had a beautifully organic flow of just one collaboration after another, one gathering after another, and being in the right place at the right time, and then the kind of responsibility also ramping up. So at the moment, we this year has been a little bit different from most in the fact that our outdoor events are quite we haven't done many at all. We have one coming up this next week, but we've been a lot more into the personal session work and a lot more of this releasing media that can kind of it helps kind of people coming onto the wave know what's going on. So just like what you're doing. So I've yeah.
So you're getting that information out there. I don't want to go past this. At least I know you talked about it before, but just so people can have an idea in case they pop in. Now you are, what does JCETI stand for? Number one. Number two, I guess you'll go into that, is it has to do with with connecting to Star Family, both visually and also through personal encounters, with an emphasis, it seems to be, on group effort versus just an individual, although that can happen. I'm sure it does happen to everybody, me included. But so can you give us a little backdrop of what does that stand for, that acronym, and does that pretty much describe what you do in terms of these group efforts, these consolidated efforts to make contact? And can you give us a story or two about how that might work?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so JCETI, again, it's we're kind of this is our main project, but we're actually getting new names and new websites out there in the coming up for this next year. But yeah, Japan Center for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and ETI is a phrase that's shared by scientific research projects like SETI, or also CSETI, Dr. Greer, and also James over there in Mount Adams, ESETI. So that, of course, was the initial inspiration. I kind of stand halfway between those two pioneers, Dr. Stephen Greer and James Gilliland, and I refer to them as senpai here in Japan, which is like sort of people who have walked the path before you, a mentor, things like that. But I was thrown in the deep end here too, so I have quite a big contract in this project, it turns out. So what we've started out with was the template of the C5 contact, and I was interviewed in Arizona this spring for a film that'll be out next year, and that is the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind initiative, and it's just as you said, the contactee, a lot of the pairing between the ET element and the Star Family contact has been so much great information has been brought forth by channelers and single serve contact portals. But we also have this new burgeoning element of group work, and that is really important for more of this grassroots type of getting the information out there and really spreading the vibe, spreading the truth to a lot wider audience. So in Japan here, for example, we had the Bashar boom of the 90s, and a lot of this channeling boom happened. But now there was, when I started here in this work in 2010, there was a real vacuum, a lack of information regarding disclosure in the 3D element, and also a lot of the actual future possibility of this contact. So I used the CE5 protocol as a start, but that quickly evolved. Within the first year or two, I was getting really strong guidance that this is not just the ET contact work. It's actually grid work. It's a full-on ascension work. And if you stop to consider that Japan here has not only had not only the first and only, nuclear explosion on a general public, and with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and which we did a huge clearing event on last year, both places. And then we also have the whole Fukushima thing happening. So there's a lot of focus here on the higher from the higher dimensions. So we got wrapped up into that real quick, and it's been an amazing journey. So basically, a gathering could be anywhere from 5 to 50 people, and there's a really strong network of since the country is pretty compact and they have a great transportation system. There's a whole culture of bringing teachers and inviting different authors to a location. And so I was with the publication of my first book right after the Fukushima event. I was blessed enough to be invited to a lot of these places, and I was also being guided places that I knew I definitely wanted to try and explore. And just one thing was just this whole red thread connected through the whole 10 years here. So at times we would have events, one back to back. I was doing work every weekend through the spring, summer, and fall. And obviously with the lack of ego and the group consciousness element with the Japanese, it made my job really easy. So I was never really a meditation teacher or anything, but I was learning the ropes, kind of on the job training, you might say. And we have had just, amazing results and contact out here, both in the field, in the sky, and on the ground.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really powerful. Now, do you, in the work that you do, and you mentioned a contract, but I know what you're talking about. But in the work that you do, you and/or your team, do you feel like you have a pretty good connection to your supporters in the Star Family world? Do you feel like you're getting good intel and good direction?
Great question. It's initially, I kind of tell people I came back here to Japan. I was here for 5 years before this project started as a warm up, and so this is all the groundwork was all laid in before I knew anything about this. So part of the network on the ground, first off, Todd, was my soul family and Star Family here incarnated here. So a lot of our early supporters and our long-term JCETI family is past life mothers here in Japan, past life brothers, sisters, children. And so you feel that connection beyond words when you reconnect with those kind of people. So that was an impetus to this really powerful contact. So without waver, without one misstep, our guidance has been incredible. So, like I said, I was thrown in the deep end. So they kind of, they had my schedule already. There was a reservation card on the table when I walked into to the banquet hall kind of thing, so they had the entire course prepared. So, and for me, I was really curious, and I wasn't demanding. I had taken such a leap to come back to Japan. I moved back to the U.S., so I was put through a ringer like you have been with the Dark Night of the Soul, the Wanderer, the Homeless Wanderer. The bottom dropped out, the floor dropped out, kind of thing. Basically,
that was your invitation, wasn't it? That was your invitation.
It was. Welcome back. Whoops, free fall. And so, so I had the faith, but I had this enormous wind in my sails. The inspiration was greater than the challenges. So that was my spiritual test, trial by fire, and I wasn't selfish in my ponderings or my. I wasn't trying to be. I wasn't demanding of the guides. I knew they had already made it very clear that there was a ton of places that this contact would be possible. They had made it clear that there was a definite need for it. And so just that whole path was a beautiful journey up until now. It's still going.
Yeah. Have you had, I mean, I don't know how to pose this question, but how much clarity have you had with your team? I mean, in terms of what they are, who they are. Is it a future version of you? Is it on a starship? I mean, have they given you any idea? Is there any connection? I know it's not even really important when you get right down to it, because you're receiving that information and putting it out there. But do you have any? Is there any kind of connection as far as lineage, or you're part of the universe that you're coming from, and that type of thing?
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Well, again, yeah. So I found that in that regard, of course, James M. L. Adams was a huge mentor, and being able to go there and connect our experience and with his information and his experience, we found that we had a contract together, and part of our piece was that Japan has this really big Orion timeline element. The benevolent Orion beings. That's sort of like the scenario of Star Wars, where the so there's a lot of Palladian souls here in Japan and a lot of Orion energy. But of course, with a project like this, we're hosting. This is a stewardship role, so I host all sorts of people's guides. So a lot of the what I call the big guns are, of course, the Andromedan Council, very powerful beings. They're usually seventh dimension. We found. And then, of course, one of my main lineages is the Syrian lions. So that's another really, really powerful light warrior energy. So I mean, we were in the kind of beings that were roaming free here in Tokyo, even, or just Japan was under the thumb of some major archon interference. So we had to have that big gun support. And yeah, so basically our main thing is the Arcturian. I also have a real big Arcturian thing, but and as far as my actual physical role in this, I had a lifetime or two as an Orion ambassador in between stars and star nations in Orion. So that's the combination of the light warrior lion Syrian, the ambassador. I've always been in between these opposing groups, whether it be in my music career or in college days, back into school days and childhood. So that sort of universal ambassador role here is really online big time for me. And now recently with the Ascension work and sessions, the Arcturian connections coming in big time too. So the healer, the energy activations and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious too with with the different cultures, the different countries. Obviously, Japan's been a force, a huge influence in the world for many, many centuries. There's a lot of over here on this end, as you know, there's a lot of disinformation. There's so much stuff going on out there that, all we can really do, I guess it's designed in a way to help us, evolve our own level of discernment and trust in ourselves. But
Yeah.
do you get the same type of atmosphere in Japan? Is there this ridiculous denial from the government, so to speak, and this total just ignore as in ignorance from, let's say, the religious community? Is it different over there? Are people more open? Is it talked about? Is it in the mainstream?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a topic of interest, and they had a large, they've had their waves of the first in the the 60s and 70s into the 80s. There was a real big kind of interest and a lot of groups active within the framework of the whole Adamski thing. Obviously, I'm not a proponent of that much at all, but there was a lot of interest in the phenomenon, the actual quote unquote UFO phenomenon back even then. And then they had the sort of Bashar boom I mentioned. In between those two things, unfortunately, you've got the Shinto element with the shrines, the whole network of shrines that connects into our work quite a bit, and then you've got the whole Buddhism element where they have a lot of the cosmology down there, and the presence of meditation and mindfulness is obviously a no-brainer here. But then they also had a major kind of ripple in their spiritual community here with the whole Om sarin gas attack, and that was the cult element. You know, that was obviously had a lot of manipulation behind the scenes, but that put a real big damper on the kind of solo teacher element. So right now there's there's a lot of that's domestically in Japan. So there are quite a bit of there's a lot of interest in what's happening in the West here. So they bring a lot of people over from US, Australia, Europe and stuff. So there's a good stream of information coming in. But what was so interesting is that when I came back here in 2010 and I was at the bookstore, I couldn't find anything in this particular genre. And it was obvious that it had been kind of boycotted. So you've also got the whole US, GHQ, and after the war, MacArthur, they left a whole system. They changed the education system here. They obviously control the media control is insane. Some people call us here the 51st state. And you've got especially with topics like this, they have some of the strongest disinformation on the mass media level. So I've been on TV shows that are watched by tens of millions. And tried to be spun into see if they could use me as sort of like a puppet here in the future. So I was able to thwart those efforts, but unfortunately we had a lot of blowback, especially as we started to reach a lot more people. So
that comes with the territory, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, there is a lot of interest. There's a growing interest, and it's going from us. We can see the changes in consciousness as we've been even in this last 10 years, and people are getting away from the more superficial and into the deeper element of it. So I just was at a meeting yesterday with one of the publishers who supported us from the beginning, and we're talking about a book we're going to do. It's my first book in about 3 years here. I have 4 books out here. So those long-term projects are one thing that I've been asked to do. And he also was saying, let's really try and focus on the inner contact, the inner spiritual element, because there's such a stigma to if you just say the word UFO or ET, people have all these images that have been put in there with the psyops. So we have we have double the work. We have to first clear that out, and then put in, and then teach people what the real the deeper element, the deeper reality of contact is.
Yeah, and that's actually a pretty good suggestion that he made, I think, or she made. Because and then again, going back to Japan, now I have not lived there, but I can only go off of what I've been able to pick up. It would seem to me that it has a more of a embedded cultural design, and what I mean by that is family, even the spirituality. It just seems like even with the Western influence and the growth it's had, it would seem like that element would be very much a foundational element in that society, which to me would make sense that they'd be more open to what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
So I mean, now in terms of what your I guess near future objectives are, where you guys at with JCETI? What do you got coming? And I think you said you might have some stuff you wanted to share with us on screen as well.
Yeah. Just one more comment, like just to comment on that a little more simply is, like I said, my job here, as I was thrown in the deep end, was made so much easier with the group cohesion element and the fact that people they're often so many of them are really grounded and open to the mystical, in the sense that they just have that really natural connection to nature and Gaia herself, and the world of the unseen is really whether it be nature spirits or especially family spirits. The spirits. The first on that list is the ancestral spirits. So that whole element leads them into they've already got one foot in the pool of this contact cosmology. Yeah. So right now, like I said, again, I wanted to just Yeah, we're shifting. We've got we started a big online community this year. So I have a new project name that I've been given. It's called ET ET Spiritual, and and then yeah. So we've kind of like we've exhausted a lot of opportunities with these larger publishers and stuff. So I want to, I was also, we've also been here to kind of help give change and bring change to the actual spiritual community, you might call it. So the spiritual community here is actually super commercial, and that's been a really difficult path to balance between this sort of holy trinity of events and workshop, private session, and goods. So we don't really do the goods thing. I not to diss any of that at all, but it really is here in Japan, these companies have exploited it to the fact that to the point where it kind of has tilted to the, you got to be discerning. So
Capitalist.
capitalism, full on unbridled capitalism. So that's sort of the so I feel like a lot of the stuff to comment on your question, Todd, here is that what with our guidance, a lot of the stuff that all these projects and all these timelines I see, they're all still non-manifested. So and the guides sort of keep them that way, because once we bring down a keyword, or once we bring down a format or a shape or a color or an object, that it's able to be used for good, but it can also be abused, and people who haven't, it's sort of like in Star Wars, where if you haven't finished the Jedi training to a certain amount, you're going to be, you're an open target to be used for other elements. So we've been only being able to release a small portion of what we've actually kind of gathered or here. But right now we have one of our another long-term amazing projects that started 2 years ago as a film. We've localized and released 3 films from the US here, and we have our own original one coming out. I work with an amazing cameraman, and he's been really put through his spiritual journey on this project to become a full-on director. And so we'll love that. We'll definitely have English subtitles on that. So that was a collaboration with an woman from Okinawa. She's they have a really strong lineage of shamanism and island shamanism, and also clearing the spirits of the ancestry in the past. Okinawa, of course, was on the front lines of World War II when the U.S. started to actually get closer to Japan. They lost, so they have an animosity towards even their own Japan itself, the mainland Japan, because they were sort of in a way sort of they some of their some of the people, they were sacrificed in a way, or kind of like they think they were thrown to the dogs, so to speak. So there was a lot of loss of life on those islands, and we've been involved in clearing that over the years too.
Wow. Let me ask you this: with the intel that you're getting, and you and those that help you, are you hearing anything in regard to 2020? In regard to what we're getting into this next year? Because it certainly seems to be from all fronts, everybody's intel seems to be, although different, the same, in the sense that everything's going to be expanded hugely, and there's elements that have been present that are either no longer present or will no longer be present. And I'm talking about some of the distortion and distractions, illusion, and things that are been hidden.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, again with this where we are right now. Yeah, I resonate so much with a comment that was you or someone on the show was making a few months ago, was that what we've experienced is, and I think this connects into 2020, of course, is that whole 5D and above versus the 3D kind of elevator, where you get up there and you really see the view, but then you have to go back down or you get pulled back down. So I think that we're going to obviously experience a lot more longer duration of the being up on the observatory deck, consciously. And so I feel like, we're really clearing the decks as we approach the end of this year for a lot more sustained clarity. And I agree 100% with the absolute, the lack of interference, has been so palpable in the last 2 years plus. It was December 2017 that we really clicked over at that fulcrum. We've been hit with a lot of everything under the sun, basically. I've had people at the door ringing the doorbell, even physical. Of course, all sorts of energy and psychic attacks that were, fatal, kind of like in the fatal zone, kind of thing, take out kind of, that's the level that we were being hit with. But that is almost zero now, so, and you can almost see sometimes, we're just on a completely different trajectory. So yeah, we're 100% focused on the positive creation, co-creation, and people just seem to be drawn to that, who need what they need when they need it. Yeah. So obviously for 2020 in Japan, we have the Olympics coming up here, and that's a world gathering. So we're going to be excited to probably, we're going to be excited to be here. I actually moved to Tokyo this year partially in preparation for that. So there's going to be a lot of potential shifts happening within the country here that'll be globally affected. We also had another one, Todd, since I saw you, this huge Atlantean timeline clearing that occurred. And one of our family here is a partial reincarnation of Marilyn Monroe. And so she's had a couple breakthrough sessions. The first session, I knew it was true because the first session we did together, I had a lucid dream right after we did the session that there were some really crazy beings that came in who had her marked and stuff. So but anyway, yeah, I think they're really trying to clear out all these old dead timelines, dead energy pockets, and all this old past baggage to have us ready for a real big rocket launch next year globally.
And so, like, in regard to the Atlantean clearing, can you kind of just walk us through that? I mean, I know there's been a lot of this stuff talked about, be it Egyptian or be it Lemurian or Atlantean, but that resonated when you gave me that information a couple of months ago, and because a lot of people were people talking about it. But can you kind of walk us through what that was in terms of what was cleared and what does it mean?
Yeah. Oh my God. It was beyond words. I mean, so basically, we had that. We had this work we did once. I think it was this. The first time these beings came in was this around June, and it was confirmed to me by another. I don't really watch a lot of stuff on the net anymore, but I had one piece of information come to me confirm what we experienced was that these some of the Atlantean beings, or these some of the in one of their peak eras, they projected themselves or a group of themselves into the future, into this timeline where they could access people like us now to take care of the issues that happened after they fell. So this time it was obviously the whole Marilyn Monroe issue ties really deeply into this Atlantean karma. And so we had about 6 beings around us, and it was just beyond words, whether it be activating, clearing, drawing out, resetting, reprogramming, downloading, the whole smorgasbord. There was no one word to describe it. It was just, we had about, we were in a deep meditation for about 10 minutes and just, even beyond emotion or tears, but it was obvious that once they finished their work, then they were resetting, and it was affecting all the entire past, everything and everyone, any place and any time who had been affected or connected to that. It was like spreading out like a huge energy wave. So we saw that very clearly together.
It was like a reformation. Yeah. So it was like a correction, or we were just talking about that on the last show.
Very big word.
Franco Di Nicola, he talks about it on some of the shows we've done, in the sense that, in the same energetic sense, that when something like that is cleared, or some even in our own situation, that it actually removes the occurrence itself, but we take the information with us. We take the wisdom with us, and the knowledge with us, and that type of thing. It sounds
Yes.
like the same type of energy, and it sounds like that these pockets of people. Now you're sitting with one or more other people in meditation, and these beings come. This is actually part of JCETI, I would say, right? Because I mean,
Yes.
it's not just going outside and looking in the stars.
Oh
It's
yeah.
actually making contact by what might be considered old school methods. Really, I mean, group meditation, group prayer,
Yes.
however you want to put it.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, well, we use guided, targeted meditations and clearing sessions. So it was in this part of this piece came through after a regular kind of session work. We do sort of like this, whether it be MAP, the Medical Assistance Program work, and of course, I also use the meditations of Lisa Renee, energetic synthesis. So her work's awesome. So it was after a work that calls it's really it's similar to, this is a bridge that I'd love to cover in another talk, is that how we got from the outdoor work to this, what we're doing, what I'm talking about now. It was in very natural progression, but all it is the power of command, it's and knowing, removing the doubt of the connection, so the ships appearing at night in the field is an initial step, an initial confirmation, but the energy connection has always been there, and that's accessible inside as well. So what that evolved into was that I discovered these other people who had these techniques that were really super advanced and pinpoint, whether it be clearing the nervous system, all sorts of elements of the physical and emotional energy bodies. And yeah, so it was in one of those sessions that we this extra piece came through with this woman. Yeah, so correction is a great word, right? So and I could feel the difference, because we've done so many of those sessions now that you can really feel whether it's personal or collective, and this was a really big collective one.
Yeah,
And I was going to show
and
you
it
here.
sounds like this. Yeah, go ahead.
I
Let me
have
ask
a
you this while you're
picture.
doing it.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead and put it up. But I was going to ask you. It seems like that this correction that's taking place is more than just Atlantean and Lemurian and Earth based. It's actually,
Totally.
like you were talking about, memories of Orion, being an Orion ambassador, whatever.
Right.
Galactic.
The
The correction is
galactic wars and
beyond.
stuff.
Yeah. So what was
Uh,
that picture
my-
you had?
yeah, I'll go ahead and share it so it'll be clearer than just holding the phone in the screen here. This is regarding the reversal there, where that clears and regarding that word connection you just brought out. Thank you. It actually kind of reverses it's the reverse. It's like time going in reverse, and we have a shot here I got during the filming of this film project last year. I was we did our second round of work, events and light work and clearing, and after we had this huge storm go through the route from west to east, and it passed through Hiroshima, and so we did event and clear and praying at Nagasaki, and then the one at Hiroshima. A few days after, I was on a plane across in the country, and right around that same area, I saw this. I mean, the first thing that came to me was reverse atomic bomb. Can you see my screen?
That's the first thing that came to me when you pulled it up.
Because look, it's like a plateau. It's not like it's like that's the ground hitting right there, or where it exploded over the earth, and it looks like a reverse mushroom cloud, like this. I mean, there was nothing around that at all. I mean, it was so abnormal, and you could see this thing once we even got in the Tokyo area. When we started to land, you could still see this kind of this giant anvil. So this was a confirmation that the work we had done there was, was actually work. It was actually being recognized, and so that this is going to be a key piece to the film here. This shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, does your in regards to your experience with your intel,
Yeah.
what were the two atomic bombs a big impetus or catalyst for accelerating things in this realm, on this planet, to where they are today? Was that a big factor that when that happened?
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, that was definitely more resonating on that Archine timeline. I think there was, I've gathered, there's been there was a lot of Zeta, negative gray interference happening there with World War II, a lot of negative gray energy in that. So that the leaders were being mind controlled, basically, is what I gather. So they had these beings, the full on possession and the manipulation of the military, through implants and various mind control and the technology exchange, the treaties and all that stuff, all that really dark contact. That was what UFOs. That should be a point for people who are still having a resistance to this. We should call it spiritual contact. That's the phrase I use here, because when you say UFO, the image that we have burned into our memory is the kind of unsolved mysteries X-Files world, and that is the minority of contact. That is that military industrial complex element with the very
it's that mainstream media controlled propaganda, and that's what when you're telling me this, I want to go to this picture next, but and in what you're saying in the story that you're relaying, it's so interesting how the depth of control, the depth of implants, and not only what we might call dark elements or whatever, opposing elements, with the ability or access to implant within us, but also we must have been all along getting help from the other side as well. Now, what is this picture right here? I'm seeing like arrows coming out of.
Yeah. I think I showed this last time. Yeah. I just want to say, and to reference your comment there too, is very true. Is that, and then when we look at any of these pictures or talk about any of this stuff, the contact itself is beyond the speed of light. So that resonates with a certain channel. So just by in the past, by when we would watch those shows, we were actually invoking, and that was what they intended. We were actually invoking and making a connection with these lower beings. So that was a very extremely disorienting situation. So now what's so thankful is that we have all this other contact that's so much easier to the actual real star family are I should say the groups that support the ascension and evolution of Earth, our recovery. They have a lot easier access to us now. So yeah, this picture is on the ocean side of a beautiful area, and we had about 60 people in the field here, and we're making this pose. This is sort of like a Reiki move where you leave energy seems to really be able to spin quite a lot faster when you have this gap between the hands. So at this point in the work, we had everyone standing up and in a giant circle. And it was so palpable, the beings in the field. I haven't really been able to cut this out yet, but the over here you've got, well, first off, you see these light arrows, and that's showing it's no coincidence they're at the third eye, and then coming from the heart here on the people on the left. So we had
that's great. Now this is a picture somebody took.
Right.
Where I'm guessing they couldn't see this light emanating from these people, and then they looked at the picture and it was there, or could you all actually see this?
Exactly. No, of course that was only in the picture, and you get that a lot with the orb pictures, or we have just one frame where there's nothing in it, and the ones next to this shot, but you have that one shot where it captured that second. So the guides they'll do that. They move so. They're moving outside of time, so they can affect the equipment like that. So yeah, this was not visible by the naked eye, but this was one of the key shots of the last few years. It just shows how much energy was there in the field with us. We had of course, a lot of activity in the sky, and then in the circle. I don't know how clear people can see it, but or if you see this guy in the checkered shirt looking up and the woman in the white shawl here next to him, under their hands there's a being. There's actually 3 of them standing. They're standing in the field with us.
Oh, I can see.
So
Yeah, I can
that is
actually
something.
see. Yeah.
I think I have those pen tools. Here we go. Yeah, right here. This is the most visible one, is right here. Annotate. Oh, I think I can draw
see
here. Yeah, right here. This right here is that being is there's the most clear one. And we looked it up late. We asked them later. There was actually more like 18, almost 20 of them there, and it was so palpable that I actually broke the circle and we made a whole line. And we're looking in this direction on the grass here, and we could just, the energy was so intense in the field. I have another shot here of beings that have come in very close, where right behind me here in the glass. I'm sorry, let me pick that up when I'm here. Orion. This is an Orion being, and you see the frame is kind of blurred out, but did you see this face here? It looks like Iron Man. They have a contact suit on, and you see this red streams of energy here. I could really feel that presence behind me. And the girl who was one of the staff for this event, she took 2 pictures. One of them was fine. And then this other one was blurred out. Here's the 2 of them. Literally, boom, boom. One split second apart. Yeah, but then you have this being here.
Yeah,
in the frame.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, and we found that that we asked.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
What do you feel from this one, Todd?
No, I mean, I just I look at it. No, I see what I was going to say. It's amazing some of the stuff that people are putting out with pictures and videos. I mean, I know 3 or 4 or 5 different people that for 2, 3, 4 years I've been seeing their stuff, and they always have these magnificent colors around them. It's not the cameras. I mean, these things are showing up everywhere, all over the world. This is incredible to be again bridging these 2 these 2 countries, basically. I mean, 2 audiences, however you want to put it.
Yeah,
because I mean, these are the kind of things. This is where I'm at, is that these are the kind of things that need to be shared. These are the kind of things that actually will quote unquote educate us or help us grow or expand. I think it's absolutely fascinating. This whole thing, that the way it's picking up speed and everything.
Yes. Yeah. I have a couple of quick clips here too, if you're okay. I've got some. I'll just show a couple little. We could start off with one in here in Hawaii. The quality is not that great, but we were. This was an amazing. We had just rounded the whole island. We had 4 nights of contact on Haleakala and in Maui, and this some of the most close proximity contact and amazing stuff happened there. That was way back, I think in 2012 even. But I've also had the night vision camera equipment there. Obviously they don't really like us to film the craziest stuff, but this was one of them. If you see, I was actually just took a stop. We were way out on the wilderness side of Maui, coming out around from Hana. I don't know if you've ever taken that road, but you could see this beautiful view of the volcano that spreads out. And I just stopped to take a nature break, so to speak, and I had the group in the car, and then all of a sudden the ships appeared. We were on our way to the location. It was still pretty early in the night, and all of a sudden on the coastline, this is the beach down there, boom, these 3 lights come up and they're spinning, and then I had a laser, and then they're responding very clearly to this laser pointer of mine, and they go crazy.
So the thing with the laser pointer, I mean, I've heard stories of people that point those at government vehicles and get in trouble.
Yes, those are the plants.
The plant. There you go. So now, let's say that me and my wife and a friend or 2 or whatever, or we'll just say 2 or more people, wanted to wanted to start this process in their own world, in their own experience. Uh, how do you go about that? I mean, do we go outside, get a couple of lawn chairs, wait for the stars to come out, and start to combine our intentions from the heart to make spiritual contact with Star Family? Would that be a way to start, or what would you suggest?
Exactly. Yeah, the having the intention. These tools are all part of the C5 initiative, and they're all in the. There's a great app. The C5 contact tool is awesome. That gets a lot of people started. That has the but yeah, like you said, the intention is all the whole. The intention is the motor, and then everything else is just more gas on the fire. So having the right set and setting. Uh, if you have being out in the wilderness is obviously key. Nothing restricts where these craft can appear, but it's the being fearless, being having the excitement in you, and a positive expectation, and then just being able to have people who are sympathetic to this with you, and it can happen, of course, alone, but the group effort is the energy kind of builds faster and stronger when you're together with loved ones or friends. So yeah, and all these tools are just ways to document. So the night vision equipment's getting cheaper and cheaper, and then the lasers are nice because they allow us. These are just frames. The tools are more for us because this world has been so such an unwieldy frontier, and it helps you connect with the stars. For example, like when a lot of these ships, they'll pop in and out of this dimension. So the lasers help you instead of saying over there, the laser helps you quickly let other people tune into where the craft had appeared, and once they appear in one place, they often reappear in the same area. So yeah, the videos I'm showing you here are more of what we call a ground light phenomenon, and the craft can then actually, this is sort of a next step, the craft can actually be in a lot more, well, this is right across a cove, and the light you're seeing flashing here, it's going to get really big in a minute here, but this is the ground lights where they're actually coming up from the ocean or inside of the ground, or they're actually landed. And so they'll go ahead and blend in with the background. So, there's all sorts of things and phenomena that can happen. So this light then eventually got, let's see, I'll go forward, this big. It's like a white out the screen kind of thing. Yeah, so it's like boom. So this was a really unique place in Okinawa, down in the Hawaii of Japan. There was an ascension project we had going on here for about 3 years, and it turned out that place where this light is a major the grave of one of the heroes of this island in history. So it's all these different things converge. But yeah,
it's amazing how
Mhm.
it's amazing how all these things are connected and related. Like I love the way you say. The other thing I love about why you say spiritual contact is because
Yeah,
it really is beyond any one concept or element. It's all interconnected. So say to an ancestor who was very important in at that point in the grid, buried there in that spot, and it's just like everything is a potential portal. Everything
yes,
is so connected. It's amazing. So are
yeah.
you now, I want to just make sure I covered this before somebody brought it up here. Stephen Greer, talking about he has interesting videos, and if you haven't checked him out, he's an interesting
Yeah.
rabbit hole to go down. Stephen Greer's work. Now, in regard to that, are you a plethora of questions? But are you excited about what you're getting into in 2020? What is the status of your involvement with Stephen Greer? And is there anything in regard to his work or anyone else that you might follow that is coming to the surface now that might be a little bit new and fresh?
Basically, yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, for us, I mean, this has been a full-time effort. For nearly next year is our 10th year anniversary, so we're preparing for a big gathering. And we're connected with all the major people here in Japan, like especially the Emoto group and everything. So we're we're preparing for more and more people coming on board to accepting the reality of the ET thing, the ascension contact, spiritual contact, and kind of resetting those old images of this that have been in the past. So, but yeah, then with as far as Dr. Rear, the funny thing about this, the contact world is that my guides and guidance, and I'm sure a lot of light workers and out there have experienced this, is that there's no manual, you know, and you have to have the experience first, and then you get the information. So we've been using his Dr. Rear's contact techniques for years to amazing success, but we only first met this year. So we only met first face to face this year. So yeah, and then then we met in January in privately in DC, and then I finally was able to go to an actual event of his in Arizona. We did a huge download in Sedona in May at Cathedral Rock there. And then we were down near Tucson for a week under the stars at a very sacred, beautiful location in a town called Oracle. And so the filming for the third film of his, you know, a lot of people came on board via Unacknowledged. So we just released this just came to our hands last week. We have the official version of the Unacknowledged DVD here for Japan now. So that is a great entryway. That's on Netflix. And so the next film is going to be called CE5 Contact. That's all based upon this work I'm showing you here. So I was interviewed for the film. Several of the kind of group leaders and participants and experiencers from all around the world are going to be in this film. So it's not just, that's what's so revolutionary about that work, is that it's not about, hey, Dr. Rear or whoever was on a ship, woohoo, you know, that doesn't really mean anything anymore. You know, that paradigm has been that paradigm has been inverted to become a sort of a control thing. So, you know, the fact that, hey, I was on a ship and you didn't listen to me. No, I don't jive with that at all. So he is empowering people to make their own contact. So this is going to be a huge thing for 2020. The C5 film coming out next year is really the big one.
Yeah. Don't forget to Go ahead. I was just thank you for that. Don't forget. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, and his work was really vindicated. You know, there's been a lot of you know, for someone that's been on the forefront of this such a controversial issue for so long. You know, he has really naturally pulled out of the UFO conference scene at a really serendipitous time. You know, we won't go into any details with that, but in the last few years, as you know, Todd, that whole conference scene has gotten just so out of control. So Dr. Rear, his guidance is, you know, unbelievable as well. So he just kind of faded right out of that. He does not like that chaos or the, I think he saw that coming for a long time. So he's on something. Yeah. And that his work was vindicated by that Tom Wilson leak that happened earlier this year as well. So the Admiral Tom Wilson, there was a big leak of files that occurred from one of their the Disclosure Project sources that really confirmed all that he was talking about over the years. So that if people look up,
Tom Wilson leak. Yeah. And don't forget to, I got one more question for you, but don't forget to put your links in the comments so people can find you and learn more. Whatever.
Are you looking, can people see this chat here?
Can they see what?
Can people see the chat here? The chat screen?
No.
Where? The comment.
I'd go back and put it on the Facebook one just so.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, feel free. I'd love to take them. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to ask you.
Sorry, as we were talking there, I just got a call.
No, it's all right. It's such a far out. I don't mean far out as in fantastic. I mean far out as in wow, how far can we go? Subject with so many different things playing into it. I mean, I agree with you. That whole disclosure things become almost like a distorted distraction. So my questioning always seems to go back to the same place. But if you take, for instance, something you just kind of mentioned in that story you were telling, uh, there's quite a few people I've come across in 3 years doing this, 2, 3 years doing this, that have pretty strong recall, recollection of council meetings, particularly on starships where they are seeing people they know that actually are incarnated here. I mean, if you just take that subject as an example, do you experience the same thing? Do you run into people that have strong recollection of having been in these council meetings and such on starships?
That's a great question. Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful, like the dream contact element for sure is amazing. Yeah, and of course, people have that recall, and I experienced that as far as like these kind of timeline and contract upgrades, and just that's part of the guidance, the meetings and the council that occurs. So yeah, I think we're often meeting with each other, and it's funny. Sometimes I've seen like these guides, and they're sitting on this kind of grid, and they have these pockets, or they're accessing our dimension from this whole other, a whole other reality. So that's the multidimensional element of it, and so they're dealing with time in a whole different the blocks of time, and they're watching in real time. They're able to kind of help and support and edit and things in real time. That's not to say that we're not involved. So our higher selves and our when we leave our bodies during sleep time, dream time, that we're involved with that process. So the guides, I love that movie, The Adjustment Bureau. It was originally a Philip K. Dick short story or novel. That is an amazing portrayal of the fact that the way these guides come in and kind of they help keep us on. We have agreements with them, and they help keep us on track for our best possible. The timeline we've laid out for ourselves. They're the ones that keep us on track, so to speak. Helpers.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I
That is
remember
an amazing
running
film.
across it and thinking
Yeah,
about,
very
is that the
highly
one with
recommended.
Tom?
It's with Matt
Who's in
Damon.
that?
Matt Damon.
Oh, Matt Damon. Yeah. Okay, I gotta check that out. We
They
might
did
be looking
such a
at.
great job in expressing how the guys will come in, and they'll they're in the physical, in the film they're in the physical, but that is in reality what these multidimensional guides are doing. So yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
the Starship stuff. I find that I have childhood memories of that, and I have I've had a couple flashes where like they'll tell you like I remember seeing coming returning towards our area here, and being pointed out, oh, those are the military satellites, those are the ones they target us with, kind of thing. Like, and they've been, they have to be careful themselves too. But yeah, I think that a lot of that, Todd, is actually another point, is that with me is that with the intel, my guides seem to be very careful, because I'm out there in the public like this. So I found that the more the bigger the reach you're going to have, the less they tell you on purpose, because there is that psychic antenna, and that goes for family as well, because there is that psychic antenna where we've had people, they're being hunted, they've incarnated here, and they have bounty hunter, they have hunters out for them. So that's the stuff that's fading out, but it was very dangerous in the past for
Yeah, yeah,
people on the front
yeah.
lines. So that they were
Well, there's
deliberately
no doubt.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We can go right down the list. I mean, I've researched for years. I mean, some of this. That's why, if I look at the whole question, and I know we get lost in the words, but UFO, ET, star family, proof, deniability, whatever. But I mean, all anyone has to do really is spend about 5 or 6 hours just surfing on YouTube. I mean, you could start with World War II, and Operation High Jump. You could
Mm.
talk about, I mean, it's a pretty easy little cookie crumb trail to follow, no doubt about it. So, man, I
Yeah,
appreciate it. I look forward to the next time we get together. There's so much to talk about. I
yeah,
mean,
I know.
there really is. I mean, there's some fascinating stuff we could talk about.
Well,
But it's so interesting too, because, and I know you must run into this, because like you've been doing this 10 plus years, and it's like this incredible information that you come across, let's say 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And it's not that it loses its substance at all. It's just that information is moving so quick
Yeah.
that, you know, there's a new map every time we wake up the next day, or certainly the next week or the next month
Yes.
or so. So
Yes.
I'm excited to see where you're going to go with JCETI this next year, and what we can do to collaborate together is so many different energies out there are starting to have these long-term plans fall into place, and there's just too much of that going on for it to be a coincidence. So I look forward to that, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Tug, for all the work you do, and the stuff you're bringing out is really just top notch and cutting edge. So, we're dovetailed together, and part of our thing is definitely going to be. I'd love to look forward to getting out more in the English speaking world next year. We're going to plan our first trip to France. We're being guided to France next year, so first time in Europe in about 20 years, and then. I know you guys were just in Sedona, so we'd love to hook up somewhere in the U.S. with you guys again, you and Morgan. But
you just let me know.
It's
Let
exciting.
us know when you're. Yeah, it is. Let us know when you're on the move, and maybe next time you get up to SETI, we'll meet you up there. I don't know
That's
what we're going
cool,
to do,
yeah.
but we'll just keep on plugging away. And I think I'm going to go out here tonight and sit out in this 42 acres and see if I can make some.
Yeah, you got a nice plot of land. Go ahead and grab the the contact tool. It's on the App Store. I would recommend it. It's got the meditations in there, the guided meditation, and all the things, the things that help get you started. But the biggest thing is one thing: just look up. Just keep your eyes on the sky.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds like what you
a
saw.
lot of activity in our time together now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure what you saw last night sounded, like, interesting. Higher than a plane, but lower than a satellite. That sounds like the right kind of zone for these ships to fly.
Yeah. It was a pretty interesting looking thing. It really was. All right, brother. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Shows today. We're gonna check out.
Yeah, keep rolling. I know you're cranking. You're cranking. Always a pleasure. Many blessings. Say hi to Morgan. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Bye. Good night.
And best to you and